let's get ready to do this, shall we? Alright, then, how about a little bit of music before we start, eh? Oh, here's one. Yeah, shake those maracas. Da 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 da. Go Stanley. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Stanley. Da 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 da. 2, 3, 4. Da 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 da. I don't know how this song will go, but I know I like it. Alright. Looks like I got everything there for that. What the? Hello, DMA? Uh-huh. Yeah, this is. Uh-huh. Really? I mean, I guess I could give it a shot. Sure. Okay. Yeah, not a problem. I can cover it. Alright. Later, Ben. So weird. I swear that totaling is gonna be the death of me yet. Anyway. Da, 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 da. Stanley. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da 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 da. Go Stanley. Yeah da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Go Stanley. Da 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 da. 2, 3, 4. Da 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 da. Oh, shift. I was unmuted the entire time, wasn't I? Whoopsie. Hi, everybody. I don't know why you're here, but this is very clearly not supposed to be a live stream. Whoops. That's weird. I have a note here saying that I was supposed to do a stream today on April 27th, but, well, it's actually kind of a weird thing. I was actually planning on recording something today for, you know, game cleaning, but you know what? No. Let's stick with the plan for right now. I think that this right here is going to be worth it. All right. And then let's see if I can get this in and there. Okay. We should be good to go there and all right. I don't know why that countdown. I don't know why that timer restarted, but oh well. I should probably go and disable that really quickly. Anyway. Hello, everybody. Scuffed intro aside, because that was totally planned, by the way. I'm not counting that as a scuff because that was totally planned. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Hang on. Welcome, everybody, to the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. But we're not playing it as intended. I decided for this one-off stream special, we're gonna do things my way. And simply put, I went into the settings and muted the narrator. And then I also went back into the general settings and made sure that the subtitles are on. I think you can figure out what exactly I'm planning on doing with this. Yes, if it wasn't obvious, I have every intent on playing through the entirety of the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, but I am voicing all of the narrations. Don't worry, I do have some inclination of how this game is supposed to go, so don't freak out too much if I'm not paying attention very well to the chat. I'm gonna try to be relatively in character for most of this, so just as a general warning. Other than that, I believe I'm all good to go, so without further ado, let's get right into this, shall we? This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others may have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. But then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. All of was cool. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all of his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his single co-workers. Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions that it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Oh, look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been nothing about you all of this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Oh, I don't know how to convince you of this. I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Just give me a chance. Now, listen carefully. This is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door. I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door. Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all of this time? The problem is all of these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. And don't you think that it's killing us, Stanley? I want it to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you. What do we want? What are we looking for? Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment, with this place, Stanley, I think I feel happy. I actually feel happy. No, wait, where are you going? Oh no, stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. I will lose all of this. Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me. Please, Stanley, think about what you're doing. No! Oh, God, you lived. You had me worried there for a moment. Now, can we please go back to the other room? No, no, no. What are you doing? Stanley, please. I'm asking you not to take this away from me. I can't go back to what I was before. If you die, we'll both go back. Why are you doing this? Stanley, let's go back to the other room. Can you do that for me? My God, is this really how much you dislike my game? That you'll throw yourself from this platform over and over to be rid of it? You are literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy? Am I reading the situation correctly? Or maybe you're just getting a kick out of it. I don't know anymore. I just want us to get along, but I guess that was too much to ask. It looks like you wanted to make a choice after all. Well, this one is yours. All of his coworkers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. What a beautiful room. What a gorgeous, gorgeous room. Thank goodness Stanley had taken this detour on his way to the meeting room. Life without having experienced this room was now too horrible even to consider. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track. But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander around about and get even further off track. So now, in order to get back, he needed to go, here it's, left. Oh, no, it's to the right. My mistake. No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... oh, dear. Could you hold on a minute, please? Let's see. Let's see. Right, left, down, left. Yep. Okay. Yep, I got it. I've got it now. The story is absolutely, definitely this way. No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top. All of his coworkers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley wait, what? No, I restarted. I swear I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be, or did something change? Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors? Did you move the story somewhere or... hold on, why am I asking you? I'm the one who's telling the story. It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay then, it's an adventure. Come, Stanley, let's find the story. I'll say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Or do we need to restart the game again? I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again. But it's gotta be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not? All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Okay, yep, it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible that the story is back where we just came from. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything? Ha! I knew we missed something. The story. Here it comes. No, wait, never mind, not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps. Now this... Well, I'll be honest, I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct? Do you remember, Stanley? Well, you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win! Congratulations! I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off. So, good job. Oh, no. I don't feel right about this at all. We both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win. Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay, I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time, I have to restart. Alright, I've got a solution. This time, to make sure that we don't get lost, I've employed the help of the Stanley Parable Adventure line. And just follow the line. How simple is that? Nope, nope, I'm done. We're leaving it up to the line from now on. Here. You see, the line knows where the story is. It's over in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it in another way, is a story of no destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being but via the very manifestation of nature of life itself? Oh, hang on. This got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not really sure where I was going with all of that. You know what? I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood. Oh, wait, cut the music. Go back and look at that fern. Stanley, this fern will be very important later in the story. Make sure that you study it very closely and remember it carefully. You won't want to miss anything. Wait, we're back at the office? No. Line, you do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable, right? The story? Is this any of this ringing a bell? No, not again. Line, how could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you, after everything we've been through, you... Oh, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it. Restart. You know what, Stanley? I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people, right? Why can't we make up our own story? Something exciting, daring, mysterious. Okay, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction? Now, this is exciting. Just me and Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything. What do you want our story to be? Go wild, use your imagination. Whatever it might be, Stanley, I'm ready for it. Oh no, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it and we should be fine. Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision. From here, the story is in our control. How important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here, so just walk in circles for a minute. Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere. Which means that somewhere at the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So, starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come on, Stanley. Our destiny awaits. Hold up. What's this? The confusion ending? You're telling me that's what this is? It's all one giant ending? And we're supposed to restart the game, what, eight times? That's really how all this goes? It's all determined? So now, according to the schedule, I restart again, and then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written on here on this thing wall? Well, who consulted me? Why don't I get to decide? Why don't I get a say in all of this? Is it really... No, it can't be. I don't want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. And the timer, stopped? Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The, whatever it is that made this schedule? How do we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen? So, okay. I guess now we just wait, you know? I suppose in some way, this is kind of a story, wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey. Though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination. So I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, do you happen to have But Stanley simply couldn't handle the pressure. What if he had to make a decision? What if a crucial outcome fell under his responsibility? He had never been trained for that. No, this couldn't go any way except badly. The thing to do now, Stanley thought to himself, is to wait. Nothing will hurt me. Nothing will break me. And here, I can be happy forever. I will be happy. Stanley waited. Hours passed, then days. Had years gone by? He no longer had the ability to tell. But the one thing he knew for sure, beyond any doubt, was that if he waited long enough, the answers would come. Eventually, someday, they would arrive. Soon. Very soon now, this will end. He will be spoken to. He will be told what to do. Now it's just a little bit closer. And now it's even closer. Here it comes. Also high classified. I apologize for not reading out the chat earlier, but I did see your message, of course. For those that are just tuning in, tonight we are tackling the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe with a twist. I am, in fact, taking on the role of the narrator. So, we have completed about 3 or 4 different endings now, and the very specific reason why I wanted to go through those specific endings is because I hope at some point we'll be getting the new content door to appear at some point in the near future. At this point, I'm going to actually try to follow a few things here, so bear with me for a little bit as I kind of scroll back up to the top of my list here and go through the correct routes here. All of his coworkers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go upstairs to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing there, so he turned around and got back on track. There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow, just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here. It was baffling that Stanley was still sitting in the broom closet. He wasn't even doing anything. At least if there was something to interact with, he'd be justified, but here as it is, he's literally just standing there doing sweet FA. Are you really still in the broom closet? Standing around there doing nothing? Why? Please offer me some explanation here. I'm genuinely confused. Okay. Well, coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. God, but turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself. And Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo. Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question will not go unanswered for long. Whoops. Nope, never mind. Stanley actually got back into the elevator and went back up. Silly me. Why did Stanley do that when he knew that it would just lead back to his boss's office? Well, that's a great question. I just can't wait to find out. Here we are, Stanley. It's your boss's office. Exactly the way it was before you got onto the elevator. It's still just exactly what it is. What a decision you've made to come up here and look at the office again. This has fleshed out the plot of the story. Now, in fascinating ways that I could have never anticipated. It's a keen eye for storytelling that you could have incisive rapid fire of critical plot points, one after the other, weaving a rich tapestry of uncompromising narrative. Wow. I'm bolted to the edge of my seat. Incredible. Now he's going back into the elevator and going down again? Ladies and gentlemen, how does he keep coming up with all of this? Oh, did you think we were going to go forward down the spooky corridor? No. It's time once again for it to go back up in the elevator. I can't even begin to grapple what might be up there. Is it the boss's office again? Or what if it's the boss's office this time? The suspense is killing me! Oh my god, it's the boss's office! This absolutely changes everything for me. Just give me a time out here for a minute while I process this. Okay, I'm ready. I'm prepared to embrace the stunning revelation and to move forward with... nope. Wait, no, I need more time to process. Alright, I have fully come to terms with it. I have made my space and my worldview for this astonishing new reality. As before, I turn to your expert eye for gripping narrative, Master Stanley. Oh, of course, going back down the elevator. How did I not anticipate it? I mean, sure, now it's obvious, but you have to understand that 30 seconds ago, this kind of thing had never been attempted before. I had no frame of reference to even anticipate it. That's just how revelry Stanley's decision-making is. A breath of fresh air in a landscape of storytelling. That has grown stale and repetitive. Hmm. Hmm. You know what? I've just thought of something. Hold on, let's stop for a moment. Don't you realize? It's the anticipation, Stanley. You and I, we have no way of knowing what will be at the top of this elevator. But the suspense, the agony of waiting and anticipating and having to guess, that's the real thrill. I simply don't want to let that feeling go. It's so precious, so fleeting. Why don't we take this elevator ride nice and slow? There we go. Isn't this so much more exciting? You know, Stanley, it seems like nowadays the only thing that audiences want is to be shocked as loudly and frequently as possible. They want big explosive moments flung right in their faces from the very moment that things get started. But where's the tension? Where's the trust in the audience to build a slow and nuanced appreciation for the story, the characters? Why aren't we given the time to imagine the surprises? To have to think and to anticipate and then to marvel at the eventual reveal? This is storytelling, Stanley. What you and I are doing right now, this is the most exciting narrative to be developed in years. And it's really all because of you. You're the one who took this bold step of revisiting the exact same locations over and over. Truly, I mean it. This is unique and different. It's not like anything else out there. You see, I want stories that surprise me, Stanley. I want to have to think. I want to be engaged and not pander to. We're being fed such unimaginative drivel all the time, and we all know it. Which is why we're so starved for content that makes us feel sharp and vital and alive. That's why people like you so much, Stanley. Because you're not afraid to spit in the face of tradition. You're a role model, you know? People look up to you. Which is why... Oh, I didn't know when to spring this on you, but, well, I've gathered a little press conference for you, so that you can talk about your work and your storytelling in your life. Yes, I know you're not much for the public eye, but I thought it would especially mean a lot to the people who have been following you all of this time. They really look up to you, Stanley. I don't know if you realize the impact you've had on them. This is the kind of gesture that might leave a tremendous impact on them for the better. Oh, good. We're here. Okay. The room where we're heading, holding a press conference, should be just around the corner here somewhere. Ah, yes. Here it is, just through this door. All right. Are you ready? I've told them you're going to speak a little bit about the nature of surprise in storytelling and what it means to truly craft a truly unpredictable narrative. Oh, don't worry, you'll do great. Just be yourself and speak from the heart. I'm really proud of you, Stanley. Okay, looks like they're ready for you. Go get them! All of it just to step through this door, Stanley thought to himself. It's all I need. If I can make it through this door, I can make it through them all. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Oh no, oh no, 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 not again. I won't be a part of this. I'm not going to encourage you. I'm not going to say anything at all. I'm just going to be patient and wait for you to finish whatever it is you enjoy doing so much in this room. Please, take your time. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover... Stanley? Stanley? Where did you go? All of his coworkers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his coworkers. At first, Stanley assumed that he had broken the map, until he heard this narration and realized it was part of the game's design all along. He then praised the game for its insightful and witty commentary into the nature of video game structure, and its examination of structural narrative tropes. So now that you're here, what do you think? Isn't this a fun and unique place to be? Why don't we take a minute to just drink it all in? Okay, I'm over it now. What do you think? Are you sick of this gag yet? Well, in that case, we'll continue. But now, here comes a real question. What do you think would have happened if you had told me that you wanted this to stop? Do you think it would have been particularly different? Would I have taken the same idea but rephrased it superficially to fit that answer? Perhaps you never would have even thought of it if I hadn't brought up the issue in the first place. Oh, now think about it. Will it be worth it for you to restart and then come back here just to do the other option? Clearly, this whole gag takes some time. What if the other option is even longer? How long will you spend in total just to have heard all of a narration? Oh, then this is rich. Perhaps you just play the other option and now you've come to see what happens in this one. So what do you think? Which choice was a better one? Imagine if you had selected continue on your first playthrough. How tantalizing it would be, not knowing what happens when you pick the other option. Indeed, you're one of the lucky ones. Though if the other option is really miserable to listen to, then perhaps you're not. In fact, I'm just going to say that no one who's listening to this is lucky. Well, now, I have built up the other option so much that I'm going to stop talking and leave you to your decision whether to come back here, continue with the game, or just sit in this spot forever and ever. Cheers. Stanley knew the office layout like the back of his hand. It was only a matter of time before he found the others, wherever they were. Only a matter of time. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was sublime, a work of art. What was it about this room that called so deeply and so personally to Stanley? Its grace? Its subtle charm? No, Stanley knew. It was something deeper, something darker. Yes, really, really worth it being here in this room. A room so utterly captivating that, even though all your coworkers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible that he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all of this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. No, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her. But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of a story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks that you are very powerful. All of his coworkers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his coworkers. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley, for the first time, understood true happiness. Then the feeling went away, and he felt sad again. Then it came back, and lingered for a minute or two. Now it's only half there, just kind of, tingle. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. The moment he entered his manager's office, Stanley froze in his tracks. Not a living soul anywhere. Could he really be all alone? This was too much for Stanley to take, too much for any man to take. He fell to his knees, bursting into half moans, half sobs. The guttural retching of life from a man denied any hope, any reason to keep going. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible. He didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming new age music. Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his most violent death. But of course, Stanley thought better of it and realized he simply had too much to live for. Nope, that's still on board with death. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. He did not have the strength. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building. Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley one of them. Eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all of this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job, that his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was a proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machine would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would be the one to dismantle it and the controls once and for all. Oh, Stanley. You didn't just activate the controls, did you? After all that I've taught you, go and try to take control of yourself? Is that what you wanted to control? Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go. Turn the controls off and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized that he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine was activated without proper DNA identification. Nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. Now, how long until detonation then? Let's say 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little bit more fun, isn't it? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now to shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off, but what precious moments those will be. Each one of them will be. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all of this means. I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your coworkers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood, and you're going to die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn into a crisp. I have to say this, though. This version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you trying to make sense of everything and take back control wrenched away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. Oh my goodness. Only 34 seconds left, but I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not? Those are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Would you assume that you saw the timer mean that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. You're running from button to button, screen to screen. Clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button on or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? This video game can be beaten, won, solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite the disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. And you're still only playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want you watching for every moment that you're powerless to see you made humble. It's not a challenge, it's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look at that clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds left, which you have left to live. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here, just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice, make it count. Or don't, it's all the same to me. All a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment that I say, happily ever after. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Stanley felt lightheaded, butterflies in his stomach, giddy in a way he had never known before. Was it this room? A connection between the two? Could a man love a room? I mean, truly, truly, deeply, madly love. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible that he wasn't fired years ago. Stanley had now gotten himself so far off the beaten path that it seemed that the office was so far off the beaten path that it seemed like the office had begun. You didn't think I was actually recording, did you? What a silly and trite explanation that would be. All the back and forth between you and me, all the absurd adventures we've been through, and it all turns out I'm just a tape recording? It was all just in Stanley's head. I bet that's the kind of twist you think is revelatory. I bet each and every time you watch a movie where it turns out to be all in the main character's imagination, you must absolutely bolt off the couch in pure shock at the phenomenal and intricate storytelling. It must be so simple to be you. Life being an unending waterfall of surprises and delights. How much more exciting must you find the world than the rest of us? Now I've become sad. Look what you've done to me. This is all your fault. How wonderful! Stanley was alone! Finally! This is great, he thought to himself. This is what I wanted all along. I got what I wanted. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Okay, I think we all know the drill by now. Blah, blah, blah. Dark secrets, a keypad. Stanley pushes some buttons. Oh, hey, look, it's a new passageway. Kill surprise. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Aha! You've made it to the bottom of the mind control facility. Welcome. You see, back when the Stanley Parable first launched in 2013, getting to the bottom of the mind control facility was a bug that we simply didn't catch during development. Anyway, when it came time to update the game, we knew that we had to do something about this little goof of ours. So here you go. New content. You can call it the bottom of the mind control room ending. If that enhances your perception of the value of this, isn't that what you crave? New content? Always more content, more content, more. I'm here to give it to you. I'm here to make it seem like we really covered every nook and cranny of the game, with secrets and Easter eggs. How about this? We wrote a new piece of music just for this section. You won't hear it anywhere else in the game. It's a secret that's just for you. That's how special you are. We call this track, Good Job, you made it to the bottom of the mind control facility. Well done.
Good job, you did it. Good job. 3, 2, 1. Good job, you made it to the bottom of the mind control facility. Jumped on the catwalk. You should have been careful. You should have been careful. It used to be a bug, but now it's an ending. Now it's an ending. I believe in you. I believe in your ability to cross this barrier and chase your dreams. The railings don't mean anything. Good job, you did it. 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 Good job, you did it.
All of his coworkers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Here's the door. Just go. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death. As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley couldn't see the big picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world would be. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man, and so he resigned and willingly accepted his violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley. Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly. And yet, it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit the start? Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another, and how they wish to control one another, and how they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fall. Turn off your switch. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it will only be your own one true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let time... And with that, I'm going to pause the game because I have been playing for about an hour and a half, and I want to take a quick little break here. But, with this being the Stanley Parable, you guys know exactly what I'm going to be playing for our break music tonight. Preferably restart it at the very beginning if possible. We have reached the first intermission. When we come back, we're going to officially dive into the new content for the Stanley Parable. Back in a few. I'm back. Whoops. There we go. We'll just do that. All right. So for those that are just tuning in, hi, first and foremost. Tonight is a special night because I decided to backtrack and do a little bit of game cleaning. And the game cleaning that I've decided to do is none other than the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. In fact, I realize this is such a slow transition. I need to go and fix that really quickly. 1 minute. There we go. All right. So, for those that are wondering, hi. This is the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. I'm playing this off of the Switch. The digital file has been out since last year this time, but the physical copy is set to come out in July. So I thought I would at least acknowledge that before I continued onwards into the rest of this, or at least the next stage of this game. Up until now, all of the first session has been spent playing through the base game with some of the new stuff that's been added. And now, you officially get to go through all of the new stuff that's been added in. And finally get to go through the new content room. Also, if you have not been reading the highlighted pinned message, tonight we are tackling the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe with a twist. I am taking over the role of the narrator tonight. So, this is technically speaking the Stanley Parable DMA edition. With that said, I am officially now going to go and set myself back up to be ready to go to continue with this. And we're going to go into the new content room. But of course, let's see if the narrator can get us over there first. So Stanley has been hanging out here in his office as per usual. All of his coworkers were gone. What could it mean? As Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Oh, new content? What does that mean, new content? Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences with the world over. Please step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content. Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure. Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere, or... Oh, here we go. Alright, finally. At long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready, so let's do it. I have to say, initial impressions of the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if, okay, let's see the new content. Give me the content, Stanley. Alright, let's see, it's the jump circle? Is that it? Is that it? Surely that's not all of the new content. There has to be something else, right? Goodness, another elevator? Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? Well, if this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. I could count to 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. Now with over 1,000 hours of new content and oh, wait, there's more. Very good. Yeah, let's see. I'm ready for whatever it is. That's it? Oh, you have got to be kidding me. This is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe that one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks, just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend? Psst, Stanley! Come over here, in the vent. I want to show you something. Oh, you don't want to see the cool surprise I made for you? Well, you're a dork anyway, so who cares? Oh, never mind, you're not a dork. Okay. Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look. I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC. You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful the Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap Nintendo Switch port? Remember back in October of 2013 when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste. And over here is where I keep the reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art. The Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created! So that's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them. And now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content. Now, here's another moving passage. This time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games, and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect! It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. All they had to do was transport it in pristine condition along to the Nintendo Switch. Boom! Done! And they couldn't even do that. Couldn't resist the urge to go meddling with a beloved franchise. These were simpler times, Stanley. What I wouldn't give to go back. To have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the Memory Zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh, God. Oh, no, Stanley. It's a collection of reviews from Pressurized Gas, the extremely popular online storefront for computer games. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they? Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny? I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them. Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley, I'm not preachy, am I? Oh, goodness, this is actually quite shocking to me. I always, to be honest, I always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did, but maybe it wasn't. Oh dear, what an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered. Oh, what's this one gotta say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening? I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, the skip button. We shall have. And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. I'll pop you forward in time so that the second my incessant droning starts to bore you with just the push of a button, you'll have it zipped right past it. It's what the players have been asking for, and I'm very proud to have delivered. No more listening to me rambling on and on and on. No. The Stanley Parable is a game for the people, and if the people want silence, then by goodness, that's what they're going to get. Well, don't just sit around waiting for me to shut up. Go ahead and make me shut up. Here, we'll pretend that I've just begun an interminable along, and it goes something like this. Story and the choices, or what have you, and therefore by becoming it is. So on, so forth, until inevitably until the end of time, at which time, everything all at once. So now you see, blah, 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 rah, rah, rah. We've eaten too much, and it can't be just yet. No, until 245. But the logic of elimination working backwards, deduction therefore becomes impossible to manufacture. It went on for nearly 10,000 years until just yesterday. Here and there, forward and back, and never a moment before lunchtime. It can't be. It's the only thing there is. How many billions left until so much more than forever ago? Which is why I say the story and the choices... Oh, you're back. You see? You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Of course, I happen to believe it was perhaps one of my more profound such ruminations. Not that, of course, you need a description of it, but if I had to describe it, I'd say it was perhaps less of a rumination and more of a treatise, or maybe a manifesto. Look, I'll outline it for you very briefly, and you can tell me what you think. Well, there, sport. Really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips to go poof, and it's all over. Oh, I can't wait to see what Cookie 9 will say about this. And whether they'll edit the rating of their pressurized gas reviews. Or at least change the word... Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. The last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes. It's not unendurable, but any means it's... well, there's really only so much I can ramble on about myself. It's, I know, shocking, isn't it? But anyway, I do suggest that we press the button again. I think the skip button has been aptly demonstrated. We can say goodbye to it and just... wait. How do we get out of here? Where did the door go? Wasn't there a door that led into this room? I do feel quite certain that there was one here before. How else would we have gotten into the room in the first place? I don't think one can enter a room without a door of some sort of window or something like that. Do you see a window anywhere? A porthole, a sufficiently large crack in the wall? I'll take any of these. All I want is for us to move on. Stanley! Stanley! Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours! You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're really, really getting longer. And my God, there's no way out of the room. Stanley, the door is gone. It's completely gone. I've looked at it from every angle. I've checked every one of those walls 1,000 times, and there's no door. There's no door. There's just you and the button. And if you keep pressing it, I have no idea what will happen. I have no idea how long I'll be made to sit here. And more than anything else, I don't know how to stop you from pressing the button again. I can't control anything in this room, Stanley. I can't touch it. And I have to believe, I have to know that sooner or later, no matter how much I plead with you, you're going to press the button again. Why would you? I've been thinking and thinking, and I don't know what I can do to convince you otherwise. Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week, or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time, just sitting here. Not a single person to speak with. And you think that's just how it's always been, right? Me talking and you saying nothing? Would you think that's exactly the same as always? Doesn't that feel like what we've already been doing? Me just talking? But it isn't, Stanley. It isn't the same at all. It isn't even close, because I know you can't hear me once you push that button. That's what I'm realizing now, Stanley. I'm realizing that... Oh. Hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I've had the time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time that I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Well, let me describe it for you. To begin with, there was only regret. There was only the turning wheel of missed opportunities. I felt nothing at all but regret for the longest time, Stanley. Days, months, I lost it all in a blur of the deepest longing to undo the past. And when that feeling had begun to subside, and what took its place is what I can only describe as the collapse of every moment I've ever experienced in my entire life. All of them collapsed down into a single instant. In that instant, I could have cleaned myself clearly, calmly, and with a collected heart. It was an impossibly rich wellspring of both delight and disgust simultaneously. I was consumed by it. I could do nothing but wallow in it for what felt like an eternity, for what I now know is far less. Because, you see, it was a revelation for me. It was like anything I had ever known. It was a space without consequence, without action or outcome. It was divorced entirely from this question of free will that you and I have squabbled over for so long. There could be... But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned. They screamed. They gnashed their teeth and they said, entertain us! It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs down review and make all the pitiful demands, but then... He's talking too much, they said. Thirsty didn't entertain us. Now he won't shut up. It's a consistency. It's a lack of accountability. It's unwillingness to examine with an uncompromising heart the words that they are speaking into the world. The end is never 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 All of his coworkers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a single trace of his coworkers anywhere. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was grand and majestic. Perhaps too majestic. Like a combination of a much smaller version and a much larger version of this exact room. It all made Stanley uncomfortable, and he started to bleed a little. This made him smile. At last, proof that he was human. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible that he wasn't fired years ago. But in his eagerness to prove that he is in the control of a story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful. All of his coworkers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Here it was, the lounge. What a room, Stanley thought to himself. What a room, what a room, what a room. This is what Stanley thought. What a room. What a room, what a room. What a room. Va-va-voom, what a room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of a story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful. Just a step through this door, Stanley thought to himself. That's all I need. If I can make it through this door, I can make it through them all. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stanley had never seen the office this brightly lit. Was it a sign of something? He hoped it was. He hoped very much that it was. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. It was okay. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of a story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful. In case it wasn't obvious, I'm trying to get a specific set of dialogue to come up, and it's not coming up, so this might take a little bit of time. I can't wait to tell this story to my coworkers, Stanley thought. How amusing they'll find it. Oh, won't we, Jill? Just laugh and laugh the time I thought everyone had gone missing. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his coworkers. Oh, good. You noticed my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you. You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable, and about how roundly disappointing this Ultra Deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley Parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this Ultra Deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I am very proud to announce for the first time ever, the Stanley Parable 2. Yes, you see? Isn't this far superior to a measly port with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is truly what the fans have been asking for. Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe, but what does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented, it screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising potential. Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down exactly what the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be. But let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring it up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logically, really. Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features. For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So, with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button, which speaks the name of the person playing the game. Isn't that wonderful?
Jim.
Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is. Here, let's have you roleplay as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature. And just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim. I want you to imagine yourself living as Jim, sleeping and walking as Jim, falling in love as Jim, and being heartbroken as Jim. And seizing all the world's possibilities as Jim. And as Jim, watching your dreams crumble into dust. And do you feel it deeply? Are you really, truly Jim right now? If so, please step forward and press a button.
Jim.
Yes, see? What a thrill, what a rush! That was you, the button described you. Do it again, do it again!
Jim.
Oh, it's even harder the second time. If this were the only new feature in the Stanley Parable 2, it would still be worth the money. Let's take a break from the Jim button. I'm too emotionally drained from all of his personal validation.
Jim.
Oh there, cowboy. Sometimes a person can be too much Jim.
Jim.
I'm putting the Jim button away.
Jim.
Otherwise, you'll soon start to lose all sense of who you actually are. I suppose I could allow only people named Jim to play the Stanley Parable 2. Now that would actually save me the work of finishing this feature. Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with? You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. And Get Well Someday it is. Or, actually, maybe I should have gone with... No, I made my decision. We're moving on. You know what? Let's bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable 2 as well. Let's... Oh, wait. You already spent all of your jumps in the first time we saw the jump circle. Oh, well. I suppose it can just be a nice decorative piece then. I suppose, while our dear friend Stanley is meandering his way over to the next exhibit here, I do want to say thank you very much, everybody, for hanging out tonight and being a part of this live stream here at twitch.tv/DanMetroArnold. For those that are wondering, tonight we are playing it through... Well, the common complaint of the Stanley Parable is that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it endangered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true, as long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the entire game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try. Can you feel it? The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, I say that I do believe the bucket lends you on an air of charisma, does it not? I think that holding on to it has made you a slightly bit more attractive as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on and on, don't they? All this and more awaits you in the Stanley Parable 2. Does everyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? That should really be an award if it isn't already. Now here's something special. You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the achievement. Yes, you see, you'll come to this lever, and when you pull it, the achievement will be given to you. It's as simple as that. Oh, okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel, to at least satisfy the horde of ravenous fans all over the world, who have left unprecariously demanding this feature. The gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen. What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet? Ah, collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your remarkable life. God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic. So again, while our friend Stanley here is moseying around to the next spot here, I do want to say I much appreciate you guys hanging out here tonight. As I forget if I mentioned that earlier or not as well. Stanley, here's an idea for something I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is in fact a hole that you can fall down forever. That's right, infinite falling. You can fall until the end of time if you'd like. A stunning leap forward into video games as a medium. You see? Isn't it so wonderful? One of my more ingenious concoctions, if I do say so. Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top. And we can continue onward. I don't mean to be a bummer, but I do recommend you use the teleport button to get back to the top. Maybe do it on the sooner rather than later spectrum of things? Okay, Stanley, I don't know how to quite say this tactfully, but it's possible I slightly exaggerated the infinite nature of the hole. Is it very, very deep hole? To be certain, it is. It's an extremely deep hole. I don't want anyone to say that it is an astonishingly deep hole. It is. Is it infinite? Well, that sort of depends on your definition of infinity. From one perspective, the infinite is merely philosophical in nature. It's more of a... Okay. Well, good for you. You found the bottom of the hole. You found me out, Stanley. I'm a liar and a cheat, and you're so clever. Look, I think the issue here is that you usually fascinated by things. I wonder what person actually wants to fall infinitely. I figured the hole was as deep as anyone would actually need. Don't you put this on me. Maybe you're the problem. Things got a little heated there. I think we both said some things we didn't mean. Why don't we just put all this behind us and agree to just call the hole mostly infinite? If that works for you. Then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp back up to the top of the hole, and we can move on. I'll just be up here whenever you're ready. Great, now I'm very excited to show you even more of my ideas for the sequel. Oh, for heavens, you see? I was right, the problem is you. The problem is that you like holes too much, not normal. A normal person would have said, yep, that's an infinite hole right there. It goes on forever until the end of time. Don't need to see it at all. But not you. Oh, no, 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 no. You have it sort of... Oh. Did the hole seem even shorter to you this time? I couldn't help but feel like you spent a little less time in there than you did before. I mean, admittedly, I didn't make this an infinite hole, but I didn't think it was that not infinite. Well, I suppose, once again, there's nothing to do here. If you decide you've had enough of the hole, you can hit the teleport button and come join me up above. Had enough? I'm positively thrilled. I really do have just so much more to show you and talk about, but I've had enough of the hole for the lifetime. Gosh, how could I have guessed? You're back in the hole. If this starts to become a thing where... wow. Okay, yes. It's starting to become extremely certain that the hole is not only not infinite, but that it's not growing steadily less and less infinite. I suspect that I'm starting to hit the point where it's no longer feasible to call the hole infinitely deep, even by the lax overall standards for accountability and marketing. What's going on here? Stanley, I have no explanation for the uncertain nature of this hole's length. Here, let's try something. Let's pop back up to the top, and we'll see if it gets any shorter. Well, there it is. Shame of my lie has come to haunt me. Not only is a hole not infinite, but it's barely even a hole at this point. It's more of a concavity, or even a very aggressive divot. An epilogue would be fun, wouldn't it, Stanley? Yes, yes, it would go at the end of the, well, we'll have to figure that out later. Alright, have you seen everything you wanted to? Ready to move on now? So, Stanley, what did you think? Do you like all the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these new features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. So, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay, you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2. Well, I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on. Let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes. Yes! This is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2. Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all of the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Oh wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could, but it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says, with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2. Let me see if I can whip something up. Alright, perfect. Go ahead, take a look. This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others may have considered it soul-rendering, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, to call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all of his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office. Just as I am about to do right now, because I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, we shall have the Stanley Parable 2. Back in a few. I'm back. Just as a heads up, I have some not so nice weather coming into the MK Intermedia studio right now. I'm currently keeping an eye on that on another window, but if things do get a little bit nasty, we do have protocols in place to basically cut the stream or go to like a safe end if need be. Right now, conditions are less favorable for having a situation come up. But I will keep an eye on it nevertheless. Right now, I'm coming on back. Hi. For those that are just tuning in, I'm going to mute this first of all, so I can restart this for the next break if there is another break. Actually, let's go on over to the full screen chat for a little bit, because I want to chat with you guys for a minute. That is not it. Oi. Come on. There we go. Okay. So, for those that are just tuning in, for the last nearly 3 hours, we have been playing through the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. It is kind of a longest game, and I know I'm not planning on clearing through all of it tonight. My plan is to at least get the proper ending to end off the stream here. Depending upon how much time I have left, I'm going to try to get at least 2 or 3 more endings taken care of. Really quickly, though, I'm going to go through my list here and make sure that I have all of the endings that I want to cover on camera taken care of right now. And if I have any issues, I'm going to go and get them resolved right away. Let's check here. That's the one I wanted. All right. So let's see. We got that one. We got that one. We got that one. I got 1, 2. I'm not planning on doing a few of them here, so I just want to make that note. Alrighty. So there is a couple of unique things that I want to take care of. So I'm going to take care of them. First and foremost, I'm going to resume the game right here. Put myself back on screen, and we should be good to go for the next little stint of this. So again, looking up at the clock, you'll notice it's about 20 after 11. And also, we've got the balloons now everywhere. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley felt the bucket calling to him, begging him to pick it up. Why was he not doing it? When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. When coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that, and in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All my coworkers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did the doors close automatically behind him whenever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley thought to himself. This is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. "I'm dreaming!" he yelled. "This is all a dream!" What a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer to an explanation. His coworkers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring, real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had not woken up yet. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strongest question of them all entered Stanley's head. Once he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it was all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he is asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he has ever been in his life. Now hearing the voice speak those words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was, in fact, a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself, too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin and press the mattress on his back. The fresh air of the world outside of this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all that I want. I want my apartment, my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it has always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay. Stanley began screaming. Please, someone wake me up! My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I'm real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She rose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon go to call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like, but in that moment she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran. All right. This time we're picking up Bucket. Stanley picked up the bucket. When Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be. No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room. And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants a bucket. You can feel that, can't you? It's clear as day this broom closet believes it deserves a bucket. I can really feel it now. It's a bucket. It belongs in the broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go with the other cleaning supplies. Good for you, Stanley. Don't give in. Don't hand over the bucket. I know how hard it must be. Given the pressure that the broom closet is putting on your shoulders right now. But you have to be strong. This is your bucket. This is your companion and lifelong friend. You can't hand it over. Oh, no. We're getting into name-calling now, it seems. Is this how low the broom closet has sunk? Then it has to resort to the stream of petty insults simply in order to hand you over the bucket. Stanley, I never liked this broom closet for a variety of reasons. But it's even worse than I had imagined. And wait, now the broom closet has a gall to imply that you and the bucket are not truly deep and lasting friends? That your relationship is purely superficial and convenient? That your life is so banal and meaningless that you'd feel the same sort of kinship towards any inanimate object which happened to lay in your path, or in even particularly enticing manner. Well, I never. Go on, Stanley, lay into it. Really tell the broom closet off for its demeaning comments. Expand on the wide variety of experiences you and the bucket have shared together. Go through each of them point by point. Share your journal entries detailing the rich emotional landscape of your feelings for the bucket, as they have changed and evolved over the years. Okay, I've got you something that I think will help settle this debate once and for all. Here we go. There. Now it's settled. No more debate, no more discussion. Take a hike, Broom Closet. With all your meandering philosophical diatribes about the nature of things and the relationship to broom closets and the natural order of things. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire, if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845. Is it 2845? You know what? No. I think it is 19.
8.
Oh God, but it turns out the panel's emergency override kicked in. And the door just opened all by itself. And Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo. The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards the bottom. It would all be Stanley could do to keep himself together if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Okay. Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves. The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it was very nearly burst into tears. As Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No, he screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad. Or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to trickle in, Stanley decided that his machinery would never again live to exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system. But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along, to take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Stanley flipped through one of the video of the silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveying silly birds all over the world. It was a facility for the mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom, because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through the live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley was happy. Someone was following Stanley. He was sure of it. If he checked over his shoulder now, he would surely catch them. It was only a matter of time. Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his right. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it, had felt the bucket calling to him. telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room. No, said the bucket. Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift. Yes, go there. Go to the cargo lift. Good, said the bucket. Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do. Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him. He unknowingly did whatever the bucket asked. Oh, stop! Look there on the wall, do you see? There's a sign right there. It says no buckets past this point. Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless, what if the problem here is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point, which, if that's true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game. If not addressed quickly and properly, so much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a moment. Now then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket. Okay, let's begin. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket. Item 2. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket. Item 3. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. This is a bucket. Item 4. Is this a bucket? But, are you hallucinating? This is a tractor! It's an enormous machine that tills the earth. I thought this was a gimme. How on earth did you manage to screw it up? Absolutely incredible. Let's just move on to the next one. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. This is a bucket. Item 6. Is this a bucket? Trick question. Both. Gotcha. Item... wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. This should be around here somewhere. Yes, thank you. There's nothing here. Of course it isn't a bucket. We both know full well that nothing isn't a bucket. Wait, when I say nothing isn't a bucket, that makes it sound like I'm saying everything is a bucket, which of course is not true. Answer me straight, Stanley. Are you trying to tell me that you believe everything is a bucket? You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I have lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago, I could answer these questions with confidence, and yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket? Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with. I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship. I can't have that. I'm sorry. I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely. Okay, here we go. What happened? Is everything gone? Why did everything disappear? Wait, was everything a bucket? Every single thing in the game was a bucket? My God, I had no idea. Who could accept me? I am not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either. Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I can actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to have some clarity on that issue. But it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what, I'll reset everything, and we'll put back all of the buckets, alright? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that who knows what that information might do to someone else. Alright, here we go. Stanley knew the office layout like the back of his hand. It was only a matter of time before he found the others, wherever they were. Only a matter of time. The confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be. No, never mind, the bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room. No, said the bucket. Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift. Yes, go there. Good, said the bucket. Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I will need you to do. Stanley did not question why or how the bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. And he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked. In here, said the bucket. Go into this dark room over here. Stanley once again obeyed blindly. Now pick up the phone, said the bucket. Pick up the phone and we'll take us back home where we can go about life together. Whoa, hold on. Why did you unplug the phone? Were you trying to resist the bucket's orders? Stanley, I was joking. Obviously the bucket isn't talking to you or telling you to do things. Buckets can't talk. It was a joke. Don't you get the joke? It's funny, Stanley. A talking bucket. Can't you see how... Oh, goodness. I must have really bungled up the delivery if you actually took me seriously. Where did I mess up the joke? Should I have paused for longer or spoken quicker? Comedic timing is so difficult. I wish I were better at it. But there isn't exactly an instructional video on comedy that one can watch to fully... Oh, wait. Yes, there is. It's sitting right here. So let's take a look. Hey, goodness, this video is a little outdated then. Well, no matter. I think the fundamentals of proper comedic timing are still as relevant today as they were back then. So with that in mind, I believe the only way forward is for us to return to the two doors and walk through all of this again so that I can try telling my story with more appropriate comedic delivery. Come on, let's head back. I can feel it. This time I'm really going to nail the delivery. You'll be in stitches. A talking bucket, you'll say. How ridiculous. How absurd. What a hilarious concept. The king of comedy, and that's what you'll call me. Thank goodness we had the instructional video. Otherwise, who knows where we'd be right now. Well, I wouldn't be the king of comedy, that's for sure. The bucket spoke to Stanley. The bucket spoke. The bucket spoke. I'll figure it out on the fly. No need to overthink things. All right, here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on their left. No. You were supposed to go through the door on the right, leading back to the phone. Did you not even look at the instructional video? I think it was all covered very clearly. There's no way I can make the comedic timing work. No, it's done. The joke is completely done and over, and it's all your fault, Stanley. I'm going to be ridiculed in the community of other jokes. I'm going to be shamed at every single one of our meetings from now on. All because you couldn't watch a simple video and take a hint. Are you proud of yourself for bringing me down, Stanley? Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on their left. We're back at the phone already? No. What's going on? There was supposed to be several rooms leading up to this. There was supposed to be a build-up to this point, a dramatic display of remarkable comedy wit, which accumulates in the scene with the phones. But now the timing's completely off. The joke will never land in the way it was meant to. And it's all my fault. I must have forgotten that the phone room comes immediately after the two doors room. One egregious mistake. I've made a fool of myself, and I don't deserve the title of King of Comedy. I'm nothing. I'm not even the lowliest joke-telling whelp. I think I need to go back and rewatch that instructional video again. Yes. Surely that will need to... Stanley, you love the bucket so much that it's like you. It's though all of your other prized possessions pale in comparison. Ah? Yeah, so let me try that again, Stanley. I heard that you are pale with shame over how unabashedly in love with a bucket you are. No? Still nothing? Is it the delivery? Pale with shame? Pale with shame? Pale? It's another word to describe a bucket. Stanley, this bucket is so metal I think I saw it playing guitar. No. We're getting away from the making fun of Stanley's obsession with a bucket, which was the whole point of this. I'm not good at these jokes. I need more instructional videos. That's exactly what it is. That's what will make me the king of comedy again. More instructional videos. Let's see. For context, I did go and put a marker to cut out that instructional video because, yeah, it was going to be humblah. And I don't trust that instructional video at all, by the way. Alright, that's enough out of character. Time to get back into the story, shall we? All of his co-workers were... Wait, no. This isn't the right office, is it? Is this Stanley's office? When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. It was okay. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figures. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these. Only intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines. And unfortunately, we are going to have to end things the way that we started this. I do apologize, everyone, but I am unfortunately going to have to go and safely end the stream here. I will go ahead and save things, and I will try my best to see if I can find another time here in early May where we can go in and tune in on a Saturday and whatnot and continue playing to finish this up. Outside of that, I do appreciate you all hanging out with me tonight. Let's see if we can find some people to raid, shall we? Alrighty. I have decided not to raid tonight, so again, I do apologize, everybody, but that is going to be end of stream. Thank you very much all for watching, and I will see you all next Tuesday for something. Not sure what, but we'll come up with it. It will probably be either more Minecraft creative building, or we might come back and do more Stanley. We'll see. See you guys in the next one. Bye!